I started playing bassoon when my family lived in Valentine, Nebraska, which is, well, at that time, I assume it still is a town of, 1,000 people up in the Sandhills. And my older sister was at the time studying French horn at the University of Nebraska. So she was my guiding light, my sort of mentor and model. And she thought, I was playing clarinet. She thought, you should play an instrument that's more in demand, more interesting, more like the French horn. I expressed an interest to the band director in the bassoon, and so they bought one. They had never owned a bassoon in Valentine up until then, and there were no bassoon teachers. So the band director who played the trumpet and I learned at the same time. There was also a girl in high school that learned. I was in 8th grade. And the bassoon was from the Fox factory, a plastic bassoon, and it came with one reed. We all shared the reed. The girl in high school quit, so I got moved up into the high school band right away, even though I hardly knew how to play. I learned all the wrong fingerings. While I was a freshman at the University of Nebraska, the St. Louis Symphony came to town and did a 1-week residency, and it was a huge eye-opening experience for me. It was the first time I ever realized that a person could make a living playing in an orchestra. I mean, some people actually did that for a living. And so that became my goal, my ultimate goal. But I still sort of, I was at the University of Nebraska. I thought I'd work as hard as I could, and sort of thought I would end up being a band director. When I graduated from the University of Nebraska, I knew, I had an offer. Basically, my teacher was leaving, and they wanted to bring in like a grad assistant type to teach and everything, which would have been a great opportunity, but I knew that if I was going to be a success as a bassoonist, I needed to get out of Nebraska. So I declined to do that and moved to St. Louis, where I had already been doing some studying with the principal bassoon in the St. Louis Symphony. I had commuted there a summer or maybe a couple of summers, and had taken lessons otherwise. But then I just started looking at auditions. So there was an audition in Louisville for principal bassoon, which I thought, well, I can drive there. There's really no risk, so I'll take that. So I went to Louisville just to see how I would do, and I almost won. So there was an audition in Jacksonville, a few weeks later. So I thought, well, okay, I'll invest in a plane ticket. And so I went down to Jacksonville and won. I remember feeling like I had outgrown Jacksonville. I mean, the orchestra was growing and it was good and everything, but I still kind of felt, clearly I had outgrown it. So I won the position in Boston, and obviously I'd been in Jacksonville the whole time. I had come really close to many jobs, and it would have been really great had I won one of them, sort of an intermediate job, an assistant principal job somewhere or something. That would be a more normal step. So then you get a feel for it, and then it's logical to go to the next step. No, I just went from single A to the big leagues in one jump. They started me at Tanglewood the last 2 weeks because my predecessor, Sherman Walt, had retired at the end of the symphony season. So Lynn Larson the personnel manager needed to fill the entirety of the Tanglewood season. But Seiji didn't want to have a new person. I mean, this for all the hires, but especially for someone like me who's coming from the minor leagues, basically, to start at Tanglewood where you're doing three different programs a week, bang, 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 and he thought that was a recipe for disaster. So basically I came in the last 2 weeks and he found bassoonists for each of the 2 weeks prior. The bassoon section, we've been in place for quite a while. We're like one of the stable sections of the orchestra. I joined along with Rick Ranty in 1989, and I'm going to say about 4 years later, Dick Plaster retired, and so Gregg Henegar joined. So that would have been early to mid-90s. And Suzanne Nelsen, the years go by. She seems like the new kid, but she's probably been here 15 years or something. You know, I used to be a beginning band director when I was in Jacksonville. It was a sort of a second job for me, a way to augment my income. And I used to tell parents, used to meet with parents of these kids starting band, and it basically said, you know, when you start a kid on an instrument, you know, the kid's all enthused, they want to play. You know, the price of admission is, you know, you have to agree that you're going to practice this amount. You know, half an hour a day, 6 days a week. You know, that's what I used to say. You know, and then that's just how it is. And most kids will want to quit after about 3 months. Most kids. I mean, if we let the kids decide, there would be no musicians hardly in this world. It wouldn't be such a difficult profession because there wouldn't be all these people wanting to be musicians. But, you know, if you get them over that hump to the point where they say, oh, wow, this is fun because, you know, I have skills and I can do these things, then it is not such a hard sell to practice.